Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos, creativity, and common sense collide. Your host, Joel Freeman, was kicked out of high school in Alberta, Canada. He left home at 17 and hitchhiked around North America as a long-haired hippie and dope-smoking fool. He made a 180-degree change, becoming one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA. As a professional speaker, Joel has traveled to well over 55 countries. His many books have been published in 28 foreign translations. Pieces from his Black History collection have been seen by millions at the United Nations and many other venues. And now, the Chief Mischief Maker himself, Dr. Joel A. Freeman.
Hey guys, Baby Joel here with some baby wisdom. The older version of me is living proof that you cannot be who you're going to be and who you used to be all at the same time. Well, we've just heard from Baby Joel. We can stop the show right now. We'll keep on going. Today, we're going to have someone on here who is very dear to me, one of my sons, one of my children. His name is Jesse. And we're going to talk about Anywhere in the World with Dad. It spins off of a quote from a gentleman by the name of Mark Twain. I have a first edition copy of the book Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain. And what he said in here, and I'm going to read from on page 650. He said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." Now, this is it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. You know, when Jesse decided that he wanted to go to Australia, because I told my kids, when you turn 15, you can go anywhere in the world with Dad. And all four of our children went to very incredible places. Our oldest son, David, he's now, 45 years of age or so. And he's in the video game industry. And I'm going to do a show with him about the video game industry very soon. But we went to Israel with a layover in London. Son number 2, Jacob and I, we went to Egypt. We were in Italy. We went to Monaco. We were a little bit of France. It was just an incredible trip. Jesse, we're going to hear more about from him, so I'm going to skip over him. Sherry, she went with her mom to Barbados when she was 15. And then she went with me to Africa. We were in Ghana, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and then in Nairobi, Kenya. We went on a 3-day, I think it was a 3-day safari in Western Kenya called the Masai Mara. And it was just an incredible experience. Now, why did I do this? Why did my wife and I, Shirley and I, consider this was important at 15? Well, early on, we spent time with our kids and said, listen, you can spin the globe. You can kind of figure this out where you want to go when you're 15. And so starting from 7 years of age, each one began to think this through. They had to raise money toward the trip, so there's sweat equity involved. There were other elements involved. We went to this is all during, or most of it during a pre-digital era. And so we went to the library and we'd get videos and books and all kinds of different things, trying to figure out where to go. Because if you choose China, you can't go to Russia, for instance. And so it's all part of making a choice and then living with the consequences, the great consequences of the choice. Another thing is that we stayed in youth hostels for the most part. We did, it was nothing about what I do because I traveled all around the world speaking with heads of state and their senior advisors in all kinds of different situations. So I chose not to do any business at all on these trips at 15. I chose to be totally focused on what they wanted to do. And so what happened is we ended up, Jesse, he chose Australia. And now you've all seen this iconic image Well, we did a bridge climb during our trip there, climbing over Sydney. And you see the opera, the famous opera house there. We went to the Great Barrier Reef. And Jesse, he went scuba diving. In fact, here's his congratulations on his introductory scuba dive. We went on a boat called the Ocean Spirit, and he went through. Both he and I went together, but he went the second time on that. We went to the Australia Zoo. You probably heard of Steve Irwin. Crikey, that's a big one. I can't do an Australian accent, but he passed away, got stung by a stingray. And so we traveled to various, we stayed in Sydney at the youth hostel there. It's about 8 stories high. And then there's a swimming pool at the very top. And then we went by train to Brisbane. And then we got one of these special deals with a plane. And we're going to explain all of that, going to Cannes. We did a balloon ride, scuba diving, hot air balloon, and then we went to Ayers Rock on our way to Perth. That was a layover for a couple of hours. I think it was about 2.5 hours or so. And then we went to Melbourne, which is an artsy kind of town, and then took a train back to Sydney. So that was our flights, our train, then flight, and train again back to Sydney. And then something happened, which Jesse's going to go into when we talk about it. I wrote a song. It's called Spin the Globe. And it's kind of telling a little bit about the story about what it means to go on a trip with your children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews or whatever it might be. And I'm hoping that this song will help to clarify, will help to set the table, set the stage for what we're going to discuss this today on this show. And it's called Spin the Globe. I wrote it, I produced it, and here we go.
"15 candles, all our stuff is packed. Maps laid out, no turning back. One last adventure, just you and me, before the road calls, before you're free." From Mark Twain's pages emerged the thought of beliefs taught and values caught. Prejudice fades where horizons bend. You'll see for yourself, it will become your good friend. Spin the globe, think and probe before you fly on your own 2 wings. Let's talk about life, discuss bigger things. Respect, love, and the years ahead. Anywhere in the world but that. Backpack stuffed, journals in tow, writing down stories as we'd go. Jerusalem lights or Sydney streets, deserts or jungles, mountains or reefs. The road teaches more than books can say. How people live, how strangers pray. We walked through history, tasted the past, laughed at our stumbles, made memories that last. Now you're driving, working fast food late. Life is fleeting, but this won't fade. You'll watch the news with different eyes, you'll see the people, not just the size. Spain aglow, think and probe before you fly on your own two wings. Let's talk about life, discuss bigger things, respect, love, and the years ahead. Anywhere in the world with Dad. So here's to parents who take the chance to walk with their kids through a foreign dance. It's not just travel, it's planting seeds of love, of trust, what they'll need.
Well, I hope that song helped to set the table for our time together today. I'm holding in my hands some notes, some trip journals, I should say. This one is from Israel with David, and these were my thoughts and feelings. And the whole idea is to reestablish eye contact. You know, why 15? Here's some more. This is from notes I took from, let's see, Egypt. And these are from the Australia trip with Jesse. Some notes I took during that particular trip. And of course, each one of us, we took our notes. And then what I did with the kids at the end of the trip is in this, this is what's known as a scrapbook, or it's just filled with trip tickets, museum tickets, images, pictures, brochures, and all kinds of things that are in here that bring back the memories in a rather visceral way. One of the things that we did is in advance, we would I made a, like this is right here is the itinerary for the entire trip. And it's helping to keep us to know what's happening the next day in the midst of jet lag or whatever it might be. Why 15? Well, 15 is the time period when a young man, a young woman is just before they get their license, and just before they start working outside the house, just before they start feeling a whole new level of freedom. And some kids might get an automobile in 16, and it just becomes a situation where they're pretty much gone in about a year. And so as anyone knows in parenting, you know, when they're younger, you have kind of a firm grip. I don't mean that in a negative or in a weird way. I mean, it's just kind of letting them know, hey, no, you can't go here. You can't do this. Yes, you can do this. You got to be in bed by 11. You've got to finish your homework and finish your chores. Those are types of things. As a child gets older, and I'm not an expert by any means, we loosen the grip. And part of the 15 was I wanted to reestablish eye contact with each one of the children. And then we could begin to kind of establish some kind of rules of engagement so that the next few years, 2, 3, 4 years, wouldn't be a way where we harm each other. Because kids have to flap their wings. They have to individuate. They have to pull away. And that's all a part of healthiness. It's a healthy exchange that takes place between a parent and child. And so some kids flap their wings harder than others. And so at 15, it's just like, hey, let's do this together the best we can. And my wife, she did a lot of the raising of our children. I was gone so much. I was traveling around the world and to put food on the table. And so this was my way of integrating my crazy travel schedule around the world with the ability to connect. And then later on, Jesse's been with me to places, and he's gone to his own places. David's been with me to other parts of the world, my wife and others. And so they could then come along with some of these trips to rather exotic places. Now, Tom Postner, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says, I did the very same thing with my wife and stepchildren. It was the ultimate bonding experience. We never thought of our relationship any different than if it was always biological. Oh, that's great, Tom. Thanks so much. It's very true, because you get to know someone in a different sort of way when you travel with them. Let's bring Jesse on, and Mel is in the background. Bringing Jesse on the show. And here we have Jesse. Hey. Son, it's so good to see you, and good to be with you.
Good to be with you.
So as a young man, you watched your two older brothers. They went to Egypt and Italy and to Israel and Great Britain. What was going through your mind as you were watching them go on this trip? How did you, or first of all, how did that impact you, and what were you doing mentally and emotionally to prepare for this, for you and I to go somewhere?
For mentally prepare for our trip?
Yes.
Yeah, it was just trying to figure out what I wanted out of this trip, like where I wanted to go. And yeah, I was very excited. I was very excited. It was something that was, you told us about it when we were young. So it was always this something that was just kind of, I don't want to say looming, that has a negative connotation, but it was always there. There was always something to look forward to, something to look forward to when I turned 15. So yeah, to see David and Jacob go through that and their experiences, it was just building excitement, anticipation, and then just trying to figure out where I wanted to go. And I feel like I made so many very different, I had so many different directions I could have gone, but trying to figure out what I wanted to do in that trip, but I was excited for it.
Folks, as you're watching tonight, if you're watching live, you can type in your questions for Jesse or myself, or make comments about what we're discussing. And I know we have people from all around the world that have traditionally been watching this show since we started it. And we welcome you and hope you hang with us for the next 45 minutes or so. Now, Jesse, when you spin the globe and you look at all the different countries, what's 193, 109, I don't know what the exact number is right now, 194 countries around the world. What were the top five? What process did you go through mentally? Because I wasn't there to influence you or to try to encourage you in any way. It was just all your gig, right? Your process.
Yeah. Well, caveat, as we're talking about this trip, it was nearly 25 years ago. So I can barely remember last weekend. But
what'd you have for breakfast?
Yeah, exactly. But I do remember I wanted to go to, I liked the idea of Israel, but I felt like it was already going, David already went there. So I was like, okay, I'll choose something different. I think I wanted to go to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I chose Australia because, well, multiple reasons, but one, they spoke English, so it was like less of a barrier of entry. So it felt a little safer in that regard. Just being able to speak English. And then I guess with it being so far, it felt like an adventure. It felt like an adventurous place, just looking at pictures of it. It's a beautiful landscape, beautiful area, lots of wild animals and stuff like that there. So it just felt very adventurous. And oh, hey, Janice Churchill. Yeah, from down under. So it just felt very adventurous. And to be honest, I knew I wasn't getting an experience like this again, where I would get a trip paid for. So I was like, let's go wild with it. Let's go as far as we can. You probably were so happy about that. But I was like, hey, let's go as far as we can, because I don't think I'll ever be able to go to Australia again. Somewhere closer I might be able to figure out, but Australia felt like an adventure, and I could, get a good experience there.
Oh, that's great. So we got someone from down under, from the land of Oz, just said hey, and someone from Calgary. I grew up in the Three Hills. about 80 miles north of Calgary. And so it's great inviting folks to the show this evening. Now, Jesse, as you were going through that process, when you're thinking about Australia, you're thinking how far away it is. You're thinking about the adventure of it all. Was there anything specific about Australia, and as opposed to just being far away? Was there anything specific that was pulling you in that direction?
Mainly just the landscape, just how beautiful it was. It's just a beautiful country. I don't think I realized how big it is
Oh, it's huge,
when
isn't it?
I know when I was doing that. So I was, I saw these different areas, and I was like, oh, this would be a cool place to go. But it was just hard to, um, there's just a lot of landscape there. But it was beautiful. So it was really mainly just how beautiful it was, and just the wildlife and that sort of thing. That was interesting to me. But
So let's kind of walk through. We landed first of all in Hawaii, and let's see, Joel, good first name, Joel Dunhill. My parents brought me to New York when I was 7. I came back from Paris when I was 18. I'm still here at the age of 60. Good for you, Joel. That's great. It's a wonderful thing to be in different parts of the world. So we first went to Hawaii because that was a layover. We flew from the East Coast of United States. I think was it through San Francisco or LA? I can't remember.
and then
LA. And then we went to Hawaii, and we stayed there for a few days. Hanamoana Bay, I think, is what we went swimming there. We stayed at a friend of mine. He had a home there, and we stayed with him. We rented, I think it was a Mustang, a silver Mustang, if my memory serves me correctly. And you drove it on a back road just above the Hanamoana Bay. Share a little bit about what that meant. What about Hawaii connected with you? That was your first time, I believe.
Yeah, it was my first time. Yeah, it was kind of an unexpected surprise when we thought that. I planned on Australia, and you threw in Hawaii as kind of an extra. So that was a pleasant surprise. But yeah, it was beautiful. It was I'm glad we did that. I think that added to the trip for sure. But yeah, it was the swimming and the just how beautiful that island was. I do remember driving that Mustang and how scared I was driving that nice car at 15 before I don't think I had my learners yet. Or maybe I did, but I can't remember, but I had barely driven. And I felt a lot of fear in that, but we made it. And, but yeah, that was a great part of the trip. I'm glad we did that. It was beautiful and relaxing, and yeah, enjoyed it.
I did that with each one of you. David, for instance, he scared the bejeebers out of me. We were just near the Qumran Caves, and there was a field in a very narrow road with ditches on either side, and he was driving fast and furious, and he was going back and forth. So I wasn't that scared with you, Jesse.
I probably was going like 2 miles per hour. So
yeah, I still remember where we were in the back area on the hill above Hanamoana Bay, in that back area. Let's see, Joel says, my point is the childhood vacation with my parents changed my life forever. That's right. It's just amazing how travel does that. Thank you. So then we stayed there for a few days. We then went to Sydney. Now we arrived in Sydney, and there was the what they call it, a youth hostel that we stayed there in Sydney. And you spent a lot of time. You were playing video games, and then we'd go over to the water side, and we did the bridge climb over the top of Sydney. Tell me a little bit about what was going on. 30 years ago now?
Yeah, 25. Well,
25. 25. I'm not making too much older.
I think it was like 24-ish.
Yeah,
Sydney was beautiful. It was it was kind of, in the various places we went in Australia, looking back, I wish, and we didn't have the internet really as much at that point to do a lot of research. But we went this, it was just, it kind of felt like it was a beautiful city, but it felt like a city, so like, it wasn't, when we got there, I remember being like, this is great, this is beautiful, but I'm ready to get out into, the landscape. But we, yeah, I mean, I loved seeing the opera house. It was a very distinct city. There was a lot of, I still remember, entertainers and stuff like that on the streets it was a very like vibrant city. It was a really cool city to visit. Yeah, when I think back to that trip, when we talk about age, I think about, you said why you chose 15, and I totally get that. I think of myself at that point, and I wish I was a little more mature at that point, when we took that trip. When you mentioned going to like the going to play the video games, I remember, I kind of carried that home life with me a little bit, where I went to with internet cafes to play games. And looking back, it's like, we're in Australia and I'm playing, I'm going to an internet cafe to play video games. So it's like, I guess with my mature level at that point, I regret some things. And that was one of the things, was like, that I kind of carried some of that home and just didn't, see the sights and take advantage of that. But
we got around, we got up on
we did.
the high bridge. You remember that bridge going over the top? And
barely.
Then we got on a train and we went to Brisbane. I went to the Australia Zoo, right? And Steve Irwin, he was still alive at that time. He was not there, and that was like, crikey, Steve Irwin isn't here, because we wanted to meet him and shake his hand. But share a little bit about that. I remember meeting a kangaroo, and I thought they were pretty tame, and this kangaroo wanted to fight and was pretty nasty. I remember that.
Yeah, it was interesting. They just let you kind of be in a pen with a bunch of kangaroos. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it changing and being cool at first, and then kind of scary. Yeah, I remember that. And I remember also, I don't know if this is a general rule or if it was something at that time, but they really wouldn't let you interact with koalas. And I wanted to hold a koala, and they weren't having that. So I remember that being a sad thing. But I remember those are the two things I distinctly remember. I definitely remember the kangaroo pen, and they're scary creatures up close. They're cute online, but they're scary up close.
Yeah, I've seen them online. They're fighting, and they just are unbelievable boxers. It's just, I guess certain kangaroos are trained that way. Then we got on a train, we got on a plane, and we went to Cannes, and we stayed. I remember the place we stayed there, and then we ate a kangaroo burger, very lean meat, tastes like chicken. I'm just kidding, but anyway, it was just quite an experience. What was going on your head at that point in Cannes?
And Cannes, I remember. Well, that's at that point. Yeah, I remember the kangaroo burger, and I remember it not being very good. I remember. That's where we went scuba diving?
Scuba diving, yeah.
Yeah. So that was. I don't know if you want
to. Go continue, and we'll come back.
Yeah.
To
when
Don.
I remember that being the highlight of the trip for sure. The scuba diving that's the most memorable. That's locked in my brain for the rest of my life. Because we went out on a boat and went scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef.
That boat ride was like 2.5 hours. I looked at the chart, how they do that, and that was quite a ride.
Yeah, but it was worth it. It was very worth it. It was unbelievable. This was a long time ago. So, the coral life was beautiful, and we went out scuba diving together, I think, one time, and then I went out again with the guide. And that was, so that's forever locked in my brain, of just schools of fish swimming around you, just so much vibrancy, so much color under the water. These giant parrotfish just swimming, you felt you could touch them if they didn't swim away. They're just really close to you. And coral life, and it was just bright, brilliant, colorful, just so many fish. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced and have since. And so that's something that I still carry with me. And that was my first time scuba diving. And that I brought back that love of scuba diving. So I've been since then a bunch of times, but, yeah, so it's, that was probably the highlight of my trip for sure.
Joel, Don Lewis, he says, when I was 10, my parents took my sister and me to London from New York. They insisted that we stay at B&Bs to absorb the culture, which I agree with wholeheartedly. That's why we stayed in youth hostels. I didn't want to stay in a 4-star hotel or 5-star hotel, because then it's just little America, and you're kind of insulated from the culture. He goes on to say, I remember we stayed at a B&B called Fernwood. This was about 1976, in a room with a bath in the hallway. It was about $12 a night. You had to put coins in the heater at night. Yeah. Or you froze in your room. Great memories. Thanks, Don. We're at the top of the hour, and so we're going to take a break for our sponsor, Rosetta Universe. We're going to play the video now. Or now. Mel, we're ready for the video.
Says I don't have it.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. Anyway, our sponsor is it's the video with the author, and that you mentioned earlier. Anyway, we'll our sponsor is.
I studied a lot of languages. That was sort of my major in college. And I'm thinking back to the moment when I was 19 years old and I was at Berkeley. And I remember they gave us a passage of Thucydides, the hardest writer of all to read in ancient Greek. So I had this one paragraph, and I must have spent like 10 hours trying to translate one paragraph. Finally, I go, I think this is the answer. And I turned it into my professor. And he goes, Robert, you were almost there, but you missed it. You completely mistranslated this beautiful paragraph, but you were getting at something. And that had an incredible impact on me even to this day. It developed character. It developed patience. It developed discipline. You've got kids nowadays who are never going to have that experience. These incredible skills that the brain has are going to be atrophying, I fear. The brain is so much more interesting to me than any piece of technology.
Robert Greene, the author. In fact, I'm reading one of his books called Power, a very fascinating individual. And he's basically sharing our why behind the Rosetta Universe. And the why is that we want to transform this ancient artifact, this epic drama, into a modern metaphor for the Rosetta Stone, into a modern metaphor for problem solving and critical thinking. Just to invite people before, during, and after the use of technology to not park your brain. If you've ever seen a brain scan of a brain that's atrophied, it's not a pretty sight. And so it's just a really fascinating thing. Go to, you'll see just above the QR code above me and above Jesse. And if you're on a laptop, use your cell phone, and it'll take you to chiefmischiefmaker.com, and there you'll be able to I think it's in the first part of the link tree. You can go find out more about the Rosetta Universe project and see it for yourself. Now, Jesse, coming back to our conversation, we're in Cannes. We take a balloon ride, and then we help them to roll the balloon back up, right?
Yeah, I remember the balloon ride. I don't remember rolling the balloon back up, but I do remember the balloon ride. That was, again, that made that whole area that we were in was definitely the best part, because that was most when I talked about wanting to see landscape, that was what where we really got to see that. Obviously underwater, and then from up above, we, took the hot air balloon up and be able to see the landscape, see kangaroos hopping around, see stuff like that. It was unbelievable, and I've never would have thought I would have ever been in a hot air balloon, but I don't know how you found that, but it was an interesting.
I think that was a surprise I kept back from you.
Yeah.
So when we went then we went to Ayers Rock. I think I'm not sure if we went out together. I know I have pictures of myself standing next to Ayers Rock, so I'm not sure who I got to take that picture. So I'm almost thinking we went together.
We didn't.
Okay, we didn't.
No, you must have gotten somebody. Yeah, I remember. I think that was one of my other teenage regrets. Like, I think I was just exhausted or worn out, and I just said, "Nah, you go out. I'll just stay here in the airport." And when you came back, when you left, I was like, I should have gone out, but I didn't.
When we were flying toward it, I remember seeing it, just this giant monolith sticking out of the outback, and just like, wow, where'd that come from? Boom, there it is. And so we did a layover, I think, for a couple of hours, and then we went to Perth. And tell me a little bit about Perth. I remember we had dinner with someone, a friend that I had met somehow. I can't remember how, but we had dinner with somebody. And was there anything about Perth that grabbed you?
I don't honestly remember Perth very much. I looked back at my journal, and I found the journal for it, and I apparently stopped halfway through the trip. So we're at the point where I stopped. So I don't remember Perth very much. I remember, well, there was Perth and there was Melbourne.
Yeah. That was next.
Yeah. So those two are kind of a blur for me, honestly.
And my biggest takeaway from Perth was we saw a restaurant that had ripped off the Chicago Bulls logo, the NBA Chicago Bulls. And I thought, man, that's rich, to rip off the logo and, draw people in.
Yeah. I remember eating a lot of fast food. We ate like was it Hungry Jack's, or what was that? Yes.
It was like a Burger King.
It was Burger King, right?
Yeah. They call it Hungry Jack's. Yeah.
That's
and then we went to,
I remember.
Then we went to Melbourne. Anything about Melbourne that grabbed you?
Again, I think that was, if I remember correctly, it just felt like a city. It didn't feel, there didn't really feel like there was anything distinct. It was kind of an artsy city, yes. Correct? But I don't remember too much about it. It was nice, but it just felt like we were going to another city. When I travel, I really like to see, the cities all just kind of blur together sometimes, depending on the city. And that one felt like it kind of just felt like it could have been in America,
Yeah. There were, I remember the statues on the street. Remember that? There's statues all over I can't remember the name of the street, but we'd walk and then hit a statue, and then a block or two later is another statue. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have a distinct memory of someone standing.
Forgive me if you're from Melbourne. I'm sure it's a wonderful, beautiful city. We were there for so short a time. I don't remember.
Yeah. And then we went by train back to Sydney, and then something happened. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think there was the day we were meant to leave, or the night before. I remember we were in the youth hostel. We were going to leave the next day, and you woke me up and said, "You need to come see this." I don't even remember what time it was, but it was early. It was probably like 4 a.m. or something like that. It was just, it was an odd time, but you woke me up, and then we walked down to the common room in the youth hostel, and on the news was the Twin Towers had been hit. And so there was a bunch of people in there, and we were just all taking in the news that it was on 9/11 that we were about to leave Australia.
Yes. I remember that morning, I was getting ready to go and getting packed and everything. You were still sleeping. And then I think I went to the bathroom, because remember the room, I think there's like there's two or three double bunk beds. And there's a guy, I think he was from South Korea or something. I think he was from South Korea. And I said, yeah, we were just talking. He says, yeah, I said, we're heading back to U.S. We're done with our trip here. And he says, well, I don't think you're going today. I said, oh yeah, yes. I was kind of getting a little irritated because he kept telling me, no, I don't think you're going today. And I said, yeah, we are. We got the tickets and we're ready to go to the airport. And then he says, well, you better go check this out. And that's when I think I went in. I took a look at what was going on, came back and woke you up. And that's when I think we were there for 5 more days, right? Every morning we had to check in at by 11 o'clock for the next to stay for another 24 hours. They were very kind at the youth hostel. And Janice, yes, yeah, we do remember the Opera House.
Definitely remember it. Yeah,
definitely remember the Opera House. How could you miss it? It's just iconic.
Yeah.
In fact, where's the picture of it? Yeah, we were there. It is right there. Yeah, in the brochure. Yes, Janice, we do. And so that was a real weird time. To think that we're stuck in Sydney for another 5 days is like whoopee doo. This is great, but it was work. I mean, because the lines were tied up, couldn't get through on the toll-free number to talk with Qantas Airlines. And I think another airline had a problem, and that was exacerbating the issue. Go ahead.
And we didn't even know how long we'd be stuck there.
That's right. Yeah.
It was just a daily by we were just check in, or you would check in, and we just had no idea how long we'd be stuck there. Yeah.
So we couldn't take like a 2-day trip somewhere and go, yeah, we're here in Australia. Right. We're always trying to figure things out because it could be 10 days, could be 3 days. We weren't sure. That was very weird. And then, Shirley, she was wondering, she thought we had made it at least to Hawaii. So she was making phone calls to friends there. And we weren't in Hawaii. So it was very difficult. It's almost like not pre-digital, but it was kind of, things weren't really connected that well at that point. Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it was a weird, it was weird being away from the US during that. It felt, people were very kind there. I remember that. I remember people being very nice and when they found out we were from America or they heard our accent, they were very apologetic and just felt very, very kind to us. But yeah, it was just weird being away from it all. It felt kind of surreal being in another country in the midst of, that happening. But yeah, it was different.
Oh, Jesse, what surprised you the most about yourself and, or maybe even about a place that we visited?
About myself, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to look back at that. And I mean, I guess what surprised me the most was, to be honest, I think I had a different idea when I talk about Australia and I talk about adventure. I had a different idea of what I expected and what happened. And I had an amazing time. It was just different. It was different than what I expected. But at the same time, I wasn't up for, I thought I was up for more adventure than I was. So I think you tried to get me out to do some different things and some more things. And I think I was less inclined to be adventurous. And so it was just a different experience than I expected, but that was great. It was an amazing time. It was just, I didn't know what to expect, I guess. And then going into it, it was just different. But
now looking back as an adult, you have 2 kids, married, living in Maryland. Can you see any ways that this trip helped you to shape you, our experience together, anything like that to who you become?
Yeah. It's given me a love for travel, which I carried even, for years beyond that. And my wife and I, we spent Like we had 5 years of marriage before we had any kids, and we really prioritized travel in that. We wanted to go visit different places. So we went to like Israel and to Scotland. And so I took that desire for travel, and beyond that, I mean, I went to New Zealand after that. I went to different places. So it gave me a hunger for travel, which has really helped shape me. To the quote that you read, I feel like that's made me a more broad of a human to travel. It's just given me new experiences, talking to people from around the country, having these different experiences in different areas has really broadened my horizons. And so, yeah, it gave me a hunger for travel. It gave me, I think it deepened our relationship. I think we had some good conversations there and some honest conversations. And I think, I think that was important for the future of our relationship. I think that was a good time for us to that age and that time period. I think that was good for us, and I think we needed that. But yeah, and I've when you bring up my kids, like it's something I want to continue with my kids. This tradition is something I want to carry on, and so yeah, I think it's just made me a more well-rounded person and given me a love for the world.
I just think it's going to another culture and trying to order breakfast and just being in a different setting. I think it does something to the dynamics of the relationship, both for the parent and for the child. And I'm just thinking not just in a clinical sense, but in a relational sense, that it kind of evens things a little bit, more of a collegiality. Because in some senses, I'm your dad, and you're my son, but at 15, now we're both in a topsy-turvy situation where, because if you're in a home, what chair you're going to sit in a room. That's my chair, even though it's not your chair, but you kind of sit there, and around the dinner table, there's certain traditions, there's certain things that people gravitate to. But when you take people out of that and put them into a totally different situation, you can just see it becomes an opportunity, I think, for people to connect in a different sort of way. I remember I was coming back from Dominican Republic one time, and I remember this kid in the airport in Santo Domingo, and he was had his friends around him, and this is many years ago, and he was kind of cocky, and you could tell he was the alpha dog in the whole group. He was coming to America, and I don't know for how long, or if he's moving, or what the situation was. But then the next airport we went to, I saw him again, and now I saw a whole different body language. It was like something new. He was less cocky and more, you could see him more open or whatever. I don't know what it was. And then another airport, I can't remember how many legs, but the third time I saw him again, it was you could see a teachability, a humility. There was something different that was happening in him. Not that he wasn't humble or teachable before, but it's just now he's open for new things. And that to me was a metaphor for you and I going to a different place. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's totally valid. I think, I agree about the kind of commonality, like we were both in that together and experiencing that together. And, it just put a different dynamic in our relationship that we could have different conversations in the midst of, and could relate to each other more. And, I think so. I think it bonded us. I think it did come back, and we were able to grow in our relationship beyond that trip in a different way.
What kind of advice would you give to your 15-year-old self, or even your 13-year-old self who is anticipating the trip, and maybe even someone listening and thinking about doing this with their kids, or even a young person listening and wanting to do something like this? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Take it all. Don't waste it. Don't waste that opportunity. If you were to do this or something like that, some trip like this, take it all in. use it as use it as an experience to have good conversations, to talk about life and talk about past. And as I got older, I gained more of an interest in you and your past and your life, and what seeking wisdom from you. And I wish at that stage I had sought that more. And so take it all in. Your parents have a lot of love for you and insight and wisdom and experience. And so I think in a trip like that, you can have great conversation and really take it all in. So don't waste a moment, and milk it for all it's worth. Go out and do excursions, do adventures. Doesn't matter if you're tired or worn out or jet lagged. Just don't waste it. Take advantage of it. It's worth it.
Another thing that I learned from this is that if you take like a 7-day trip, that's not enough. You have to push it to 12, 15 days and to a spot where homesickness comes in, because that's when real deepening of relationship and bond happens. And that's why I think it's important to do at least 2 weeks or longer if one has that luxury. But and for those who wonder about how can I do this financially, I mean, back then it was difficult, because each one of the kids, were like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, just like one right after the other. So, financially, Shirley and I couldn't regroup financially for the next child, because Jacob, especially Jacob, you and Sherry came one right after the other. And I would just say to parents, just do it, just plan on it and do it, because no matter what kind of a challenge, and if you need to parry it back, if you're in Australia, if you're in Japan or something like that, to do it within country. So if you're in the United States or Canada, to go, if you're in US, maybe go to Canada or go to Mexico or something like that. Something that you could even drive to over a period of time. But do it. I think it's, especially 15, I think is such a sweet spot for doing something like this. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. And if you have young kids, like my kids are 3 and 5, I'm saving for it now. So I'm saving for, in addition to their college and stuff like that, this is something I'm putting money toward now. So it's, if you have young kids, just start saving for it early, plan for it early. And that way it's less of a financial burden, when that happens. But plan ahead as much as you can.
And one of the things, I'm sure you can't remember how you did this, but for each child that you had to come up with $300 toward it. And I don't know what you did to do, babysat or mowed lawns or cleaned windows or something.
Don't remember. Yeah.
You came up with some money, because I think it might have even been the catamaran trip, that I said to you, because you worked, because you brought some money to this trip, we were able to do this particular fun thing together.
Yeah.
And part of that is, I think, to have some sweat equity, have some skin in the game, as they say, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that. I agree. I think it's good idea to have them contribute some. If you're willing to do that, I think it does. It makes it your trip. You invested in it too, and I think it's good and it teaches work ethic. And working towards something. I think it was. I think that's a good idea to do that.
And what has this taught you about fatherhood? With 2 kids, 3 and 5, soon to be 4 and 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just in this trip, have a focused attention on each kid. Sometimes in parenting, it's you're if you have multiple kids, you're dealing with the chaos of the home, but to have really hone in on each kid and spend time and focus on them. I take my daughter out daddy-daughter dates and stuff like that, and to be able to focus on each kid and really be intentional with each kid and find out what drives them and interests them and what they're passionate about, and then to invest in that and to focus on that and to spend time with them. I think it's good.
That's great. We have Dion Sullivan. He says, when are you two going in your next 3-generation adventure.
Yeah, where are we going, Dad? Where are you going to take me on another trip?
Remember, there's some sweat equity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this one, I guess I'll pay for you. Yeah,
I think that our times in Myrtle Beach together every summer are in some ways part of this. I think the 3-generational spending 2 weeks together. Was it now twice a year during the early summer and late summer? I know that is just I can't, Shirley and I just can't wait for that. And that's why we call the house there, your Indy's house and Ezra's house, to have it in mind that that's part of their inheritance, that they'll have that house, and they'll so it's their house to build memories in, and we have a place for them to measure how much they've grown. I think last time Indy had grown 4 inches in 1 year. That's crazy when you think about it.
Flying by.
Yeah. So, in terms of designing a trip with Indy and Ezra, what do you think that's going to look like?
I mean, they're still so young, so I don't know. I mean, to be the dynamic that's different from me, that we're gonna have to navigate when we get there, is my wife also loves adventure, and she loves to travel, and so we're gonna have to figure out what to do when we hit that time, because she'll want to go. She has FOMO, so she'll want to go too. So I don't know if it's gonna be just me and a kid or not, or if it's gonna be both of us and one. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure that out when we get there, or if it's I take Ezra, she takes Indy. We'll have to see what we do with that. But they're still so young that we got a lot of time to figure that out. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to take them out and have that one-on-one time with them for sure.
By the way, those listening who don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Different cultures might not understand that.
It's true. Yeah.
So any thoughts? I mean, have you already started talking with Indy at 5 and 11 months or so?
We haven't really talked about that too much. No. We've shown pictures. We went on a missions trip to Honduras this past January, and so we showed her pictures of that. We include her in what goes on as far as travel and different cultures. We're kind of teaching them Spanish and a little bit here and there, and so we want to show them different cultures, and we include them and show them pictures of our old trips. We'll go through our old photos all the time and show them different pictures of that and stuff like that. But she doesn't have a huge scope of the globe yet, so we haven't had a talk about that trip yet. But I know she'll be excited. She loves going on adventures with us, so she'll be excited for it for sure.
If you could describe the trip in one word, what is that word, and explain why you picked that word?
I mean, it's funny to say because I've said how much I've forgotten, but but memorable. Like the core of the trip, the feelings that I felt, the conversations we had, that our relationship dynamic. There's for how long ago, it being 24 years ago or so, it's etched in my brain, and the experience is etched in my brain, and so it's memorable. It's had a profound impact on me, and I think bonded us, and we have a very close relationship. Not solely because of that, but that had an effect in it for sure. So yeah, it comes to my mind.
One of the lyrics in the song says, "You see the people, not the sides." We've got 30 seconds left or so. How has this changed how you watch the news?
I mean, just giving me a broader that and other trips of talking to people. I've been on other trips where I'm in hostels talking to people from different cultures. It gives you an empathy, and of what other cultures are experiencing and going through, and it gives you just a broader scope of what people the human condition and the human experience, because we can tend to be so myopic with our culture. It just helps to talk to other people in other cultures and get their experience.
Jesse, thank you so much. I love you. Love you. Thank you for hanging out with me today for an hour. And next show, we're going to have someone by the name of Loida Lewis. And she ran a $1 billion enterprise after her husband died. Fascinating story. And I can't wait for you to meet her. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you. Love
That's
you.
all. Love you. That's all, folks.
You have just experienced another episode of the Mischief Maker broadcast. Hit the subscribe button. Connect at chiefmischiefmaker.com. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And hopefully, you are now a bit closer to becoming a mischief maker in your part of the world.